Hey guys, it's Go here from Eamon14, and I'm finally back on YouTube, guys. I really apologize for the hiatus. I was busy with some things in real life and also on the game as well, but I've cleared some things up and I have more time to get back to my content schedule. And another thing that took me a minute was, I was comparing a lot of ideas and a lot of strategies and discussing with a lot of other sword warriors before I wanted to bring this video to you guys so we could kind of have a more solidified idea of how to build the sword warrior, how to swap from axe to sword without being kind of feeling like you're a little behind, which seems to be the general consensus. A lot of axe warriors are getting their awakening, and then they don't like the awakened skill, which is totally reasonable. Then they swap to sword, and they feel weaker anyway. So it seems like the warrior in general gets a little weaker on awakening. And that is mostly because the sword warrior is more of a defensive gameplay. So for a lot of axe warriors that may be watching the video, you get your awakening, you swap to sword. Well, you might be a little disappointed. And part of the reason why is because when you were on your axe warrior, you were focusing more on, at the early time in your build, you were trying to get more counter damage, you were trying to get more attack, you were trying to get more crit damage and things like that. And when you get those things pretty well built, they shine very well on the axe. However, when you switch to the sword, your results are not going to be immediate because you still want those things, your attack stat, your crit damage, your counter damage, of course, your crit rate, but you also want to think in terms of more of how to sustain yourself, how to utilize your shield passive here, which of course scales on your max HP. So the first thing that I want to point out is that you will want to get your HP bonus. You see how my HP bonus and my defense bonus is higher than my attack bonus. And that's generally what you want, right? You want to try to survive more. You want your shield to be stronger. And that is going to help you with some of your damage loss because the axe does do more damage theoretically. But of course, with its poor use of its awakened skill, it's kind of counterintuitive with the launch effect and wasting some of your skill effects. This way you are going to be able to get more sustain and you can keep the warrior functional. Not saying the axe warrior is just terrible, but it definitely falls off a little bit when you get awakening. And again, you might have swapped to the sword and you might not like the immediate results that you might have received early in the game when you swapped to axe, which of course was in a heavy archer meta as well. So the axe, no matter what, is still going to perform against the archer arguably the best, especially early on. But that is just a couple thoughts in regards to where we're at in the meta now, where people are with their choices of switching from axe to sword, some things you may experience early on. So you want to make sure that when you make that swap or you're playing sword warrior, you want to think like a tank. When you're playing your axe warrior, you are thinking more of a burst damage character. You want to have really high damage on your counters. You want the fights to be short. The sword warrior, you are looking to use more of your sustain and your defensive passives in order to win your fights. You are not really just prioritizing your archer and warrior matchup. Martial Sage has a little bit more versatility in the meta once it's built, and in terms of family brawl and things like that, you get pretty much a free Nature's Renewal, which is very, very good. So the skills that you want to focus on here, this is generally what I still use. I use this on axe as well. I don't typically use the shield skill in PvP, but that is also an option. However, with high crit rate and high crit damage, Worldly Snare still performs pretty good. I believe that if there is one thing that I would change out of here, for if you are kind of low on crit and you want to go all out kind of tank build, then maybe switch out your Worldly Snare for your shield skill, and maybe clone if it doesn't die. It really depends on how high your defensives are, if you can still get any use out of clone. I'm sure if you're in an established server, you are seeing that clone is starting to lose its value. It pretty much instantly dies during Blitz. But of course, if you have the meta artifact for Warrior, which I do not have, then maybe you can get more value out of clone, right? Maybe you can get the double proc, and that is going to help you a lot with your survival and of course with your damage. So that is always a possibility there. However, this is the general skill set that I use and I recommend to people, and that is if you have enough crit rate to utilize the Worldly Snare effect, but you always, pretty much always, as a warrior, want to at least use Blitz Assault, 100 Slashes, and Smoke Bomb. The other two, your Worldly Snare and your Easy Breezy, are a little bit more interchangeable, but I would only consider skills like Shield or Nature's Renewal, and maybe Wild Gust at times, but I would say going for something a little bit more defensive is definitely a better option, because you are looking for more of a tank gameplay. I will say in general, it is a long-term scaling build. So like I said before, a lot of people were immediately switching to Axe. They were getting immediate results that were very substantial and that they enjoyed. And that is really not the case with the Sword Warrior. It is going to take some time. It is going to take some dabbling, so to speak. And that's exactly why I wanted to make this video, to point you in the right direction of things that you want to be looking for, that you want to invest in. For your Prayer statue, you want to do 4 global counter damage and 1 global HP, so that you can buff your shield passive. And that will allow you to keep your damage up pretty good with your global combo percentage, along with keeping your HP up. So you can see here, I'm not the biggest spender, so of course, take that into account. But regardless of that, I'm at almost 15,500 counter multiplier with nearly 500k HP bonus, and that's not with a lot of spending, so not really so bad. You can see that my defense and my HP are outweighing my attack bonus, and that's ideally what you want. And of course, my attack speed bonus is high here because I am currently using the Hero Bird Pal for when I was doing my showdown. I was attacking towers. But optimally, I would say if you're not trying to counter a mage build, then I would use the tortoise here. So pup, toothpaste, dragon, tortoise, and deer is generally going to be a very nice setup for you if you have enough crit rate. If you don't have a lot of crit rate and maybe you're going for something a little bit tankier or maybe a little bit more niche, such as a counter evasion build, then I would use Hydro Sprite instead of the Treasure Dragon. But right now I am currently at 71% crit rate without my Worldly Snare active. So I really get a lot of benefit out of the Treasure Dragon. Some mounts that you want to consider in the long term would be your Blue Ox. And this is just generally speaking, probably the best PvP mount in the game at the moment. However, there is a new Rush mount out that is available that is perfect for warriors. I really think that this is probably the best mount morph that you can get in the game right now for a warrior. And you can see here that, you're going to get your attack boost, you're going to get a shield, and then you are going to get reduced damage taken. So overall, it's synergizing with most of your passives very good. You're going to get some attack compensation very early on. You are going to get another shield that synergizes with both your sword passive for shield and also with your tortoise if you're deciding to use that. Again, the idea is a tank style gameplay, so you need to think a little bit differently than you were thinking with your axe if you have just made that class change from axe to sword. But regardless, I think for both warriors, just warrior in general, this is a very, very good mount. And of course, you want to be using your Raven if possible. Most of the other ones, I'm sure, if you have any of these, they feel pretty lackluster for warrior, unfortunately. The Eye of Raven is going to give you a little bit more build diversity options. And of course, I don't have it, so I wish I could display that to you. But I really try my best to stay relatable with you guys and work with you guys at a similar pace so that I can help you along the way without you feeling pressured to spend a lot of money in the game. For your morph here, you want to focus on, if you can, your lustrous plumage. This is a really great one. It gives you your 20% defense and your 10% attack. But I would say the meta pick would be this one here. So this is going to, ideally, this is going to synergize perfectly with your Adapto Slime because you are going to get an extra attack bonus when your HP drops, just like the slime. Then you are going to get some more damage res, and you're going to reduce the enemy damage res. That's going to complement with your passive and help you survive longer. And then, of course, you're going to get a little extra regen effect for sustainability and a little damage nuke when they are getting you to lower HP. If you have this available, I would highly recommend it. And if you can also pair it with the Adapto Slime, you're looking at some big synergy between your mount and your back accessory. And for your relics, this is generally what I'm using at the moment. I did just get done with Showdown here. I would highly recommend your Stonerit Tome for your PvP. So this right here is a pretty generally good setup. The only change I would make is Cage Statue if you are using your Easy Breezy. That will just allow you to survive as long as possible, which is the idea. You know, we're in a meta right now where the fights are very fast and it's pretty much who kills the other one faster. So the idea of just surviving and sustaining is actually pretty useful because everyone else is so focused on damage. So if you can survive just a few more seconds than them, typically you're going to be all right. It's going to work out very good for you. So Cage Statue is a good option for that. You will be able to increase the effects of your Easy Breezy skill if you're using it. Now for your souls, it's going to be a little bit different than your warrior, or your axe warrior, excuse me. And when you were axe warrior, you did not have to worry much about your defense soul or your HP soul as much. You likely were worrying about your counter soul, which is my first pink one there, your attack soul here, and your crit damage soul here. Likely that's what you were working with. You were trying to one-shot them pretty quick. Maybe you would supplement some of your essence into your HP, your crit res, and your defense souls just a little bit. But you want to start equalizing them out, kind of how you're seeing here. I'm not trying to pump my counter up super crazy. I'm trying to get more of a well-rounded thing. And yes, I still have my attack up pretty high. But you want to get your crit res, your HP, your defense, your attack, and of course your counter, when you can afford it, gets pretty pricey in the 30s. But overall, you want to try, you can see here that I have my HP up pretty high, and you want to get that up as high as possible so that your shield is very, very effective, especially if you're using something like the Adapto Slime or another type of back artifact or mount option that gives you any kind of shielding effects, you are going to get a big boost from the HP increase. So for your overall optimizations here, so what I was mentioning before is that you really want to focus on your HP and your defense more. So I will show you here that, I immediately went to my HP. I even focused it over my defense. And the reason why I did this is because Sword Warrior already has a 30% defense buff. So even with my back feathers, for example, being as low as they are compared to the other two, my defense is still the highest stat. And that's going to be pretty common, which is why I'm kind of focusing on you working on your HP, because your defense is going to come a little bit more naturally as a warrior. And you still want some attack. You don't want to forego it entirely. You want your counter multiplier to be working off of something. But you want to be focusing on surviving and sustain as much as possible as the sword. You're not trying to burst damage anyone down too fast. So another thing that you would want to focus on is in your talent trees here. You can see that I kind of evened everything out pretty good. I went to the point where this is somewhat tough to afford. It takes 2 days to get those feathers. But you can see that, my attack, my defense is above 15. I did a little bit into my HP. And of course, I could rework these to optimize a little bit, but this is a general overview. Then here I focused again on a little bit more HP. I still did my attack. I still did my defense, but I tried to get a little bit more HP in there. And I did the same thing here. And that allows my shields to be stronger. Now for your morph items, I want to mention that there is always some other sponsored purchase and shop options that are available for coupons and discounts in the game. So maybe you feel like it's difficult to afford some of these things, such as your Pepe back or your Blue Ox mount, or maybe it's even tough for you to do some of your rush events, so you feel like your Adapto Slime is going to be a really long investment. Well, I would like to mention that a lot of my users have really enjoyed using my partnership with App Gallery, and it is for primarily Android users only. And if you are a US user, you can contact me on my Discord server, and I or my promotion manager can help you to find the best way to get the discounts. However, after my first month of partnering with App Gallery, I did have quite a few users that were happy. They were primarily outside of the US, in Southeast Asia and Europe. However, they have some very good coupon options when you download the app and you use their app to download Legend of Mushroom, and you make your in-store purchases here within the app. And that will give you various cashback rewards and vouchers where you can save money. Overall, like I said, a lot of people have been very happy with it. They have saved quite a bit of money, and they have thanked me for the connection with App Gallery. And I think that if you are somebody who maybe you only want to spend on your fortune cats every once in a while, you have a certain budget that you want to put for the game, it's really great for you to get as much dollar value as you possibly can from your spending. And the best way to do that is through App Gallery, where you can receive some vouchers that are up to 20% or more cash back in your rewards, and that will allow you to credit your account at various times and get more bang for your buck. So if you are somebody who wants to get some of these morph items, such as the Pepe back or the Blue Ox when it is next available, Or, you would like to top off some of your rush events. You have a very competitive server where saving might not be an option. I know that's the position that we are in on my server. It's almost impossible to get some of your rush passes from just saving your in-game currencies. So this way, maybe it will be more affordable for you. I believe App Gallery will be a lot of help. And like I said, you can always use my Discord server, and you can also contact me at Discord in general, and you can ask questions about that, or you can contact my promotion manager, and we will both be glad to help you in navigating and figuring out how to use the app for your purchases. And I will also include some tutorials and some guidelines in the description that will help you out as well. And so just check the description if you would like to partake in that and save some money. And you can also join the Discord server there as well. So back to the guide. You will really want to focus on your crit rate and your counter strike. And you can see here that I even went down to Supreme Gear in order to get some of my desired stats. And another gear set that maybe you would be interested in, I wish mine was a little more developed for you, but I will show you here. You can also use evasion and counter strike. Now, with the Axe Warrior, you wouldn't have wanted to do this because you really want your damage to be critting. But since having a very high evasion could allow you to sustain more often for your cooldowns, especially when using the Hydro Sprite PAL, it is a great option for you to use Counter-Strike in evasion, because it is confirmed that you can still proc your counters off of evasion, and that will allow you to deal with the archer matchups a little bit, because you do suffer just a little more in the archer matchup, especially early on as sword against archer. But overall, as you further develop your sword warrior build, you will see that there are more options available and more long-term viability. I think that in some cases, the axe was a little bit more instant gratification, and sword warrior is a long-term scaling build. So it will take more time to get your results, but you can continue to further develop your character, because at this point, it's going to be pretty hard for your Axe Warrior to perform well in the game, given that there is this awakened skill here. And I will go ahead and explain in a practical sense why this is not good. So if you get your 60% counter damage increase here, and if you think about the same skills that we're using, the smoke bomb and the easy breezy, well, they only last, 5 or so seconds, right? So you are losing a lot of your buff. You have 8 seconds here, and you have 5 seconds where you're launching whenever you proc a counter attack. Well, if your counter attack percentage is really high, then they're going to spend more time like they're on a trampoline, more than they are able to attack you. And then once this decides to, the effect ends, well, your other skills effects have also ended. And so you are definitely more vulnerable as Axe, opposed to before. You would have your easy breezy active, you would have your smoke bomb. Well, by the time that this ends, this active skill here, your smoke bomb effect is going to be gone. Your easy breezy effect is going to be gone. And it is not going to feel very good. Not saying that Axe is just 100% bad, but seriously, Awakening made it take a hit. And so I want to illustrate really quick why the Sword Warrior is better, mostly because of this active skill difference here, where instead of it being counterintuitive, it's actually an effect that you want in the long term and that you can build around and work towards without it being a detriment to your build. So as I said before, guys, You can always join my Discord and ask plenty of questions, anything about most classes, and I will help you out. And that will be linked in the description along with your app gallery links if you need help to set that up and save yourself some money. And guys, I also, again, I really apologize that it took me so long to get back on YouTube. I had to get some things situated out, and I really appreciate your guys' patience. I am back with the guide videos and with Family Brawl and hopefully Sneak Peek here soon as well. And so I appreciate you guys again for being so patient, and thank you guys for watching as always. I'll see you next time.